In 1983, the US government opened congruent investigations with Project Blue Book called Operation Sunstar. The intent and mission of Sunstar were to find any connection to Operation Blue Book, which investigated the existence and probed the impact of extraterrestrial activity within the US borders. Sunstar specifically was to mount an effort that included but was not limited to investigating any and all reports of land-based woodland or mountainous creatures commonly referred to as Bigfoot. In the beginning, this investigative effort revealed little, then all that changed. This Pandora's box exposed activity in multi-dimensional worlds, as well as interdimensional activity, to be defined as ghosts, spirits, influences, and powers of divine nature. The government and scientific communities were not prepared for what they found. To this day, all accounting and financial documents for Project Sunstar are categorically denied or highly classified by the US government, and the civilian statements and reports of contact with said creatures are categorically dismissed as local folklore. The US government's attempts to discredit these accounts or dismiss them through misinformation campaigns are largely successful. These techniques have been refined through experience from events like Area 51 and Roswell. These reports, although classified, have on occasion been leaked. The news media rarely chooses to carry the story on page 1, but rather bury it on page 12, dismissing it as hype or lose the story altogether due to government influence. The inside informant who leaked the file, and any reporter who attempted to run the story, in every instance, have seemingly been killed in random or accidental unconnected events. This story that you are about to hear is one such event. It is not for those with a weak constitution or faint of heart. The facts and events of this story are explicit. The names have been changed to protect the innocent, and the time stamp on this story and exact location have been redacted. This limited rendition of actual events has taken the facts reported in case BBSS 122312 and re-released anonymously in narrative form, disguised as a short story, due to fear spawned by the unexpected expiration of the freelance reporter who initially attempted to run this story as front-page news, but was denied by all mainstream media outlets.
It was cold and dark, but with enough moonlight to see the fog roll across a lazy half-frozen lake. Dressed more for a summer picnic, not a sub-zero trek through the woods, Maggie held herself tightly while she shivered and contemplated which way to go. She was lost, cold, scared, and alone. Her escape attempt felt like a full-speed marathon and had left her legs weak and her heart beating like a bass drum. Quietly she listened to see if she could hear any sound that might indicate she was still being followed. Nothing. No sound at all. Aside from the heavy beating of her heart, filling her ears with a false sense of security. Maggie was crouching behind a tree that dropped onto the forest floor many years ago and rotted as time passed, clearly home to thousands of spiders and bugs of all types. Even they weren't moving in this cold. The still of the night was neither peaceful nor calming. She froze as fear and terror gripped the air, and her with it. She didn't know what to do. The spiderwebs holding the dew shook, then shook again. She looked up and saw her breath rise carelessly in the moonlight above the tree she was hiding behind. It now became clear to Maggie that she was about to be discovered. The footsteps were almost upon her. She bolted away from that tree, like a rabbit, and she heard the eerie, hollow scream of the creature who imprisoned her. Angry and in pursuit, the footsteps kept coming. Her only source of comfort was the fact that she was running with everything she had, but that was soon ripped away as the creature stretched out his hand and scooped her up with minimal effort. He held her small frame in his grasp as he shook her and roared in her face. He turned and began his walk back to the cave where she had been imprisoned. Maggie looked at the bones, and remnants of human debris piled near the mouth of the cave as he carried her in. She saw her mom's bag and her dad's shoe, both bloody. They were left there, no doubt, for the scavengers to pick through. She threw up on the creature, but he didn't seem to mind or even notice. As they moved farther into the cave, Maggie observed the fire was still aglow, but its warmth had no effect. She still felt cold, alone, and scared. She knew her parents had been eaten. She watched these animals clean their bones with surgical precision. Whoever they are, we are their delicacy of choice. But every thought and detail seemed to evade her mind at the moment. Denial was in full swing, but it was not helping her cope with the issue at hand. The last thing Maggie remembered before being taken was driving through the snow going to Grandma's house for Christmas. Dad and Mom both screamed. The car spun, rolled, and eventually stopped. The three of us were pulled from the car. It was somebody big, huge even, and hairy. I remember the smell, can't describe it, but it was awful. At first, I thought they were there to help. As I slipped in and out of consciousness, I saw Dad slumped over the shoulder of one of them, and the other big one carried Mom and me. They were more than twice the size of Dad, and had enormous feet. As I recalled the events leading to my circumstance, I shook in fear. Nowhere to go, nowhere to run. Hopeless, helpless, cold, and alone. Within minutes the sun began to rise, and the other two from before walked into the cave. The first is very large, and the second one considerably smaller. They made motions and sounds, grunts, and barks, but they seemed to understand each other well. The alpha, the one who hunted me, grunts and points towards me. The small one looks in my direction. He comes my way, and holds me up by my leg. He carries me over to the fire, and gives me a closer inspection. It's then that I can see into the fire. Mom's glasses are there, and denial is no longer an option. The memories came flooding back. Dad, Mom, they had been food. Eaten and bones discarded. At this point, my only remaining hope is that the car crash killed them both, before they were brought to the cave. The alpha beast saved me for the smaller one. This seemed to be a ritual or celebration, maybe even a primal life lesson. Without any warning, crack, a violent jerk is felt, and the surrounding cave is spinning. One of my legs is gone. I can see blood squirting, and the small one is quickly cleaning the meat off of my severed leg with his teeth and tongue. He's holding it by my sneaker, and in his other hand is me. As the room spins and shakes, I can see the other two making their way to the back of the cave. They walk through a dark hole that wasn't there before. It's glowing a pearl white from around the edges and dark in the middle. As the two larger beasts step into and walk through it, there is a slight ringing sound coming from the edge of the hole. The smaller one is focused and surgical in his efforts to clean the bloody bone that hangs in his hand, and as he turns back towards me, he sees the dimensional hole in the absence of his larger mates. He looks back into the cave, and back again to the portal. Seemingly distressed, he pulls again, separates my right arm, and drops what remains of me, and runs for the black hole that is now beginning to shrink. With a single hop, he jumps through, and the hole that is slowly shrinking is now behind him. There I lay, helpless, one leg bitten, and torn off at the hip, bleeding profusely, the other broken, right arm missing. The cave is going dark, as consciousness loses its grip, blood loss taking its toll. It's just a matter of time. A minute, maybe two. I'm getting colder. Fighting sleep. Knowing that I won't wake up. I'm scared, cold, and alone. I thought to myself, this is the way I die. Will anyone find me? Will anyone even look? God, are you there? It's cold. It's dark, God. My eyes have gone dark, but I don't seem to mind. I can't feel any pain now. I'm just slipping deeper and deeper into the dark. I always wondered what this would be like. Now,
These events were recorded by the cell phone of the character represented here named Maggie. In the report, all victims were identified by name and social security number in the header of the report, but thereafter referred to as victim number. Maggie was referred to as victim number 3. According to the actual written report from the Sunstar file, her cell phone was recording a video when the 3 creatures attacked the car with boulders. She clutched her phone in a panic, unaware that the recording never stopped. Any conjecture offered by the writer was gathered by the actual words, nuance, or actions displayed over the 2.5 hours of raw video captured on her phone before the battery died. The beast was unaware of the cell phone or its capacity, and never thought to take it from her as she represented no threat. The video continued to record, clutched in Maggie's hand, and gave us the account you read here. One of the last references by the lead investigator was a simply worded statement that shook the DOD. The devastating exposure of the reality we now face was clearly and undeniably outlined. Victim number 3 still held the cell phone with the recording function engaged, see Exhibit 4. As the smallest beast turned to run for the exit, it ripped victim number 3's arm from her shoulder and carried it through the exit, unaware of the cell phone or the recording. Instantly the beasts all stood together in an enclosure that resembled a bear exhibit at any prominent city zoo, complete with bars and foliage. The video continued to record. As the alpha beast turned and saw the smaller beast with the dismembered arm in his hand, the alpha immediately growled loudly, baring teeth with large canines clearly displayed. Much like a silverback gorilla is known to do when displaying dominance. The smallest beast immediately turned back to the closing portal and tossed the arm back through. The video clearly shows the arm landing 2 meters from the body of victim number 3, exactly where we found it in early January, when the search and rescue teams discovered the wreckage. So, for the first time, we have unedited, unaltered, and authentic video footage of what we are facing. Proof of a sentient extraterrestrial presence, randomly appearing here on Earth via wormhole or some interdimensional portal, coming here to Earth to hunt and consume living prey, including humans. We are now the hunted, a delicacy to a physically dominant non-Earth species. This reality is alarming, but we are all aware of the underlying emphasis of this report. That there is an off-world presence hidden from our eyes and instruments that possesses superior intelligence and technologies. These beings keep the beast we have encountered as pets or on a type of display and provide them with a portal to move between worlds or dimensions. We know that they are far enough along the evolutionary thread that they consider us to be as food for their pets, like free-ranging cattle, or even worse, edible sport. Their true definition of us is still unclear, but we do know that we are a simple food source and regarded as nothing more. We must assume that our defenses would not have any significant impact on an invading force, and Earth would quickly fall to their advance.